Welcome to your Property Fix podcast. I'm Anthony McMullan.
And I'm Alison McMullan. Your Property Fix is your go-to spot for property insights, market updates and real stories from the front line.
We're going to keep you informed from buying and selling property to rental legislation, buy-to-let and everything in between. We have got you covered.
Let's get you your Property Fix. Hello and welcome to your Property Fix. Today we're going to be talking about property investment, in particular for those that are looking to start their journey or those that are looking to grow their portfolio. So, Anthony, if I'm looking to invest into property, where do I start? It's a bit of a minefield, so where do I do? What do I do first?
We meet so many people that are sat there at this point, they've got some money, because that's the thing, unfortunately money drives everything. Unfortunately,
you've got the
money in the bank. So they've got to have some investment capital that's sat there in the bank account, which will, drive the way
deposit
forward. Yes, to a degree, and potentially investment capital for the renovation of a property as well. The next stage and the best way to make a return on investment is by using somebody else's money. Mr. Bank Manager.
That's nice, isn't it?
Getting the bank, and this is the next stage you'll need to get to make yourself eligible. If you're going and looking for a property, you need to be able to prove that you're able to buy a property. So with that in mind, you'll need to go and see a mortgage advisor, an expert. And that mortgage advisor will have multiple products that will suit the criteria of an investor. So that could be their age, it could be their number of properties, it could be their experience, it could be an array of different things, and every lender has different products that will suit different situations, age, professions, experience, all these different things. But a mortgage advisor, as part of your power team, one of the BP of the tower team, will be able to advise you on what is going to be the right product for you. Again, depending upon your strategy, because there could be different types of strategy they want to go down, whether they want to do, a flip, or they're going to buy one and they're going to keep it, or all sorts of different things.
And there's specialist mortgage advisors for investors, isn't there?
Absolutely.
You say? Rather than, you can obviously mortgage advisors as part of banks and things like that,
yep.
But in terms of looking for a mortgage advisor, one that specialises in investment properties, that's kind of even investing themselves. Yeah. Sometimes,
it's not
so
just
they've got that
standard
insight.
buying your house for your home that you're going to live in as your residential
different
home.
To a residential.
Yes, very, very, very much so, very much so. So, very important factor, if you can find yourself or get a recommendation of a good mortgage advisor for property investment, explain everything about your situation, what you're thinking of doing, and they will then be able to match the right product to you.
And I know that one question we get asked a lot, and I know we've done videos on this in the past, and they tend to get lots of hits. The kind of age-old question, where's best to buy?
Yeah.
That's what we get asked. If you're an investor, what should they be looking for? Where in Coventry?
Oh, the networking events of the past. Listen, Anne, where's good to buy at the moment? Well, what's your strategy? Well, I just want to buy a buy-to-let house. I'm going to rent it out. I'm going to rent it out to students. Okay. The key thing with regards to where to buy is the why and what you're wanting. So it's starting back at the start of any property investment is always why you're wanting to do it. What's it going to facilitate? So for some investors, they may well say, I want to finish work. I want to replace my income for work, which is a great strategy. It'll take you a while to get there, but it's very doable. Other people may well say, look, I want to get 1 or 2 properties that pays for our family holiday, our Disney trip.
And even just replacing your income, that's going to be different for different people, depending on how much they're earning.
Absolutely.
So just because you've maybe got the same why doesn't mean there's the same solution.
And also the amount you need to get to and all these different things. But the key driver is that property investment isn't just as easy as that. It's not. You need to learn and you need to pair yourself up with people that know what they're doing, that can give you guidance and help. Really, really important. But as far as that motivation is that if property helps you to achieve something, so as I was saying, pays for that trip to Disney every year, it's the face of your children that are smiling and happy when you're having those bad days. Because those bad days do happen.
Yeah.
And also in addition to that, no.
Route.
But that's where it's really important, surrounding yourself by a power team of people that know what they're doing. But in addition to that, do you have those bad days? But if bad things happen, you pay for a training course. Something costs you money that's a mistake, You've just paid for a training
As long as you're learning from it.
Yes, absolutely. But as far as locations to buy, which you're going back to on that point, it depends on who you're trying to target and what you're trying to target. If you're trying to target, for example, a house of multiple occupation, a HMO for university students, where does it need to be near?
The university.
we all remember those days of wanting to roll out of 5 to 9 for a 9 o'clock lecture, roll out of bed at that sort of time. So location is very important. As far as then the facilities that it's nearby to young professionals and students in HMO.
Yeah, they want to be in the action, don't they? With all the amenities on their doorstep.
So location, supermarkets, pharmacies, all those bits and bobs. In addition to that, transport links that maybe will be able to take them through to the train station, or that they can walk to where they want to get to. As far as a family, supermarkets, schools,
good schools.
And good schools, yes, very much so. I know in certain areas of Coventry, like Green Lane, I remember that person, in fact, that he wanted their children to go to a school. He says, I'll rent that room, I'm not going to live there, but just so that I've got an address.
Postcode.
And a postcode that's nearby to the school. That's the extreme some people will go to get into a school. But obviously then looking at what the cash flow is going to be, what are your goals for your cash flow, what are your motivations, whether you're wanting good cash flow or capital growth, different areas will facilitate that, because there's different rents, different values of properties in different areas of the city. Again, there's so many questions on what your strategy is going to be.
And I guess it comes back to the why as well, because if you're looking to kind of get out the daily grind, get out that 9 to 5 job, replace your income, you've got to be careful that if you're going down the HMO route and you're going to be self-managing, you're just going to be getting yourself another job. So it kind of does come back to your aims in that, as to what you buy.
Yeah, I mean, and there's also then, we keep on talking and keep emphasising is your power team. A lot of landlords say to yourself, well, I'm not going to get an agent because they're just going to take money and I won't make as much money. And you'll say, okay, true. You will have more money come into your bank account if you don't have a letting agency. Fact. However, big question, you're going to now spend your time doing it and making sure it's compliant and becoming an expert, which you can't be an expert in everything. How much does your time cost? And if you're going to pay yourself, I don't know, let's say you're going to pay yourself a good wage, £30 an hour. Very well. How many hours a week are you going to spend?
Yeah, and it also comes down to where your skill set lies. Because if you want to be growing your portfolio, finding that next property, finding that next deal, trust me, you don't want to be dealing with tenant disputes in HMOs.
Or going out, I've locked myself, landlord, I've locked myself out on a Saturday evening. You just sat down to watch the telly with your first cold beer and all of a sudden you're getting a phone call to that. That is what you pay an agent to do. But it's not just that. And yes, of course I'm biased because I run a letting agency. But the compliance of your properties is so critical. The Renters' Rights Bill that's coming, and as we covered in our last podcast, it's so important that one mistake, I didn't know that, I wasn't aware of that one, that's unfortunately not an excuse. Yeah. And that won't be accepted from the councils.
Yeah, it's important. So with a letting agent you have that kind of expert.
That's their liability.
If you've got the right people working.
Very much so.
Okay, so once you've worked out what your spending is, you've kind of narrowed down your area, how do you find these properties? Where do you look for the deals? Where's good to look? Is there portals or other routes?
There's some obvious bits. Of course you're going to be looking on Rightmove and Zoopla, but one recommendation I would give to you is if you've got a certain criteria property you're looking for in a certain location, you can register your details onto the websites themselves so that you get alerts. You can get, as soon as one comes on the market, you can jump on it, you can get them daily, you can get them weekly, and you can get the new properties that have come to market. So if they, that criteria of what you're looking for in a location, you can do that. You can even draw a little line around the areas where you want to get notifications for. So that's just simple as looking online. You can also make sure you go to networking events. Build that network is really important, because if you're then getting alerts with it being an off-market deal, doesn't go to the open market, you get to know the vendor, you get to know what their situation is, what their motivations are. You can then find deals. So you stand up and you say, listen, I know at the PIN meetings that we host, everyone gets 20 seconds, so you can stand up and say, listen, I've got some investment capital, I'm looking for this profile of property in this location. If you're a landlord and you're looking to offload some of your properties, I'd be very interested. So building that network that side. And then lastly is going out to those estate agents. Then people may say to you, oh no, going out and dishing out, they don't care, they'll throw your business card. Well no, if you go into an estate agent and say, right, here's my proof of funds, here's my decision in principle, I've got obviously proof of address, proof of ID here, I'm in a position to purchase at the moment, no chain, this is the profile of property I'm looking for, have you got anything or anything that's coming up soon? And build that trust and credibility.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, an estate agent, they're not going to get paid. They're not going to get their share of the money until that property's sold.
No.
So most of the time, they just want the easier route to a sale, get somebody in. If they can sell it quickly, get the sale through, that's when they get the money.
There's properties I've sourced in the past where I've had phone calls and they've said, listen, Anne, I know you've been looking for such and such a person, because I've got clients that I do the sourcing for, and they've said, listen, got a property that's coming up soon, it's going to be on the market Friday, I'm going there to get the photos today, did you want to meet me there? We've then said, right, okay, wants it, tips, I've then called up the client, I've said, right, I found a great property, it's not gone to market yet, it fits the profile of what we're looking for, do you want to put a bid forward? In the end, the estate agent sold the property for the investor, that's meeting the price that the vendor wanted to achieve, everybody's happy.
And it looks good for the estate agent if they're putting the property on
absolutely.
Friday and they can mark it on Monday morning that it's sold subject to contract.
Absolutely.
That's good for them as well. So once you've started getting these viewings, and I'd always recommend doing just more than one viewing, but
absolutely.
getting your viewings booked in, what sort of things because you go in and you kind of, you're looking at like the cosmetic side of things, and you like go in and think, oh, is this going to be a nice property to live in? But what else should you be looking for when you're at viewings?
Okay. What's going to cost money? That's what's going to think. The key thing, you're going to walk into a property, and realistically, if you're thinking you want to let that property out, what work do I have to do? Cosmetically, you're going to look at those things initially. We're then going to think to ourselves, okay, has it been previously let out? That means that you should have a gas safety certificate, which means the boiler likely to be serviced. The electrical parts of it as well, the electrical safety certificates will be in place. Then you're looking for alarm bells as far as rising damp. So in some cases you may well see like a tide that's going along the wall. You're like, I'm concerned on that. So it may well be, you may put an offer in subject to a survey from a specialist, a damp specialist. And then in Coventry we've got Damp Co that may well go out, and they'll come out and they'll say, right, this is the work that needs to be done, and this is what it's going to cost. And you then go back to the vendor, and this is, your ACE card and potentially what you could do. But, you're looking for those different things, or even subsidence or cracks in walls, what's caused them. But the next stage you'll need to do, if you've had an offer accepted, is always subject to survey. Now, a home buyer survey will cost you £400 or £500, depending upon the survey that's doing it, but that is worth its weight in gold, because on one side it may well say, house is amazing, brilliant, okay, that's great to know. As far as the lender's concerned, they've got that survey that says that's great. However, if they find issues there that are solvable issues, you can go back to the vendor and you can say, right, these are the issues that have been found, an independent specialist has found these issues, I need to resolve these issues, it's going to cost me X, and I need you to take it off the asking price.
I mean, it doesn't always happen, but it's a good negotiation tool potentially, but it's also peace of mind for yourself to know that what you're buying, you're not going to have any kind of unforeseen problems further down.
But also, if you're going into the properties, if you can meet the vendor, you can see what their position is as well in your bidding process, perhaps. And the fact of if it's gone through probate and it's an inherited property and there's no lending, or there's lending on the property, what your boundaries could well be when you're bidding on the property. There's a few little sneaky what's the situation of the lender? Oh, okay. Oh, do you know they've got a mortgage?
Yeah, slipping those questions in, because some agents are quite free with their information. Some are a little bit more tight-lipped. But yeah, it's always good to kind of have that, build up that rapport, ask those questions, and try and find out a little background. It certainly helps, doesn't it?
Yes, very much so. Very much so.
So how do you know it's a good investment? So what, ultimately, you've been in, you think the property looks great, there's no major issues. How do you know that it's going to work as an investment?
Well, the key thing is you've got to have done your numbers initially. So initially you're going to have your boundaries and your targets and your goals you want to hit. And if that property hits it, you've done your due diligence, fantastic. But have those limits to where you'll go to is really important, because I know in some cases they may also there's multiple people bidding, but don't go above what the boundaries you're setting yourself. But depending upon your strategy, making sure you've got comparables and trustworthy comparables. Don't make the numbers work.
Yeah, and I think, like, we see it sometimes. We get asked for rental valuations. How much do you think this would rent for? When people are doing it as part of their numbers and their due diligence on a deal, we always say, just be kind of sensible with
Worst
those
case
rentals.
scenario. Pessimistic.
Yeah, a bit pessimistic. Not necessarily kind of going for that top rent. When you get the property and you're putting it on the market, potentially you will be going for that top rent. But just based on when you're working out your numbers, base it on that lower figure, just to make sure that there's kind of a bit of room for movement.
Yeah, so
that's what we'd recommend.
It's like a stress test almost, which is what the lenders do on lending. They'll say, well, if the interest rate goes up by X amount, because obviously they're covering their backs if things go up, but do that stress test on the fact of that if the rent isn't going to be as high as you thought it was, it's still going to make you the target. But here's another thing to think of as well, is if you bid what you think is the right price, which goes up to the amount you need it to, if you're not successful, it wasn't the right property. Another one will come along, and don't make the numbers work. I keep on emphasising this.
Because we get that a lot, don't we? We get people that are coming to us, they've got a property to let, and they want to rent it, and they want to rent it that high price that is never going to be achievable.
Voids cost more than getting.
It does, and then you know what will happen. You get it on your books, and it's just going to sit there, and not do anything. No. And it's kind of like that's why it's so important to have that realistic kind of rental valuation
every time.
And if you're going through a certain agent buying the property, don't necessarily just get a rental valuation from that same agent, because ultimately they may kind of give you a bit more optimistic because they want to get that sale. So kind of build up your list of agents that you're speaking to.
Incredible ones
as well. So once you've kind of found that property, you've gone through the viewing, you've decided this is the one for you. How do you get that offer accepted? Because we see it in estate agency, certain property profiles, they get lots of interest. Sometimes it goes to kind of best and final offer. So what's your recommendation on getting that offer accepted?
It's kind of revisiting what I've already said, if I'm honest with you. Making sure you build that trust and that credibility. But if at the start of everything, even before you've bid on a property, when you're going and building that network with the estate agent, go in there with proof of ID, proof of address, proof of funds, decision in principle. You're then already going through the sieve of what they'll be looking for a credible buyer. Explain your situation, build those relationships and trust, and then all of a sudden, there's estate agents I've sourced from the past. You don't need to worry about that. I know it's the same buyer as before. It's fine. Don't worry about it. But that's what it gets to. You've got to do your criteria due diligence. An estate agent, you have to do that for money laundering and everything. But if you can get yourself one step forward already when they're then putting it to the vendor, they've already been in and shown me everything they need to show me. So we've got a good one here with no chain, and I've bought from Anthony, or I'm speaking to Anthony for quite a while now.
It's just building that credibility.
Yes.
And when agents say best and final, it's important to say that best and final, that's the highest you can go to. Because we've had it in the past where people have come back and said, "Oh, you never told me you'd got a higher offer." So, well,
let me know what someone else has offered. Well, no, it's best and final.
Best and finals is just what it says on the tin.
The key thing, as I've said already, set your limits. If it hits that goal and you put the offer in and you're successful, brilliant. Yeah. If you don't, another property will come along. There's plenty of properties out there, and that property wasn't the right one for you because somebody else went too high. In some cases, they'll have done the same stress test, but they've gone high. But think to yourself, well, they're not going to do as well as they think they will do. But
they might have a different strategy, a different aim. So you don't. Yeah,
there's different ways.
So just to finish off, Anthony, what can we offer property investors? What services do we offer from Homemaker Properties?
Lots and lots. We want to help you, as we've said already, be as successful as you possibly can be whilst maintaining compliance, whether that be property management, whether that be property investment, property refurbishments, all these different things. But we are making a real effort to train people as much as possible, whether it be through our YouTube channel, or YouTube, lots of videos of my ugly mug on there. We've also got social media as far as Facebook, with regards to posts that are going on there, whether that be local information, things that are coming up at the moment, or whether it be the webinar that we're doing as well as the podcasts. We want to help you as much as possibly can do. But then as far as other services that we do, we've got off-market sourcing, where we've got off-market deals for investors. If you're looking to sell your property, we could potentially put your property to our investors off-market. There's no footprint then as far as YouTube is concerned, like YouTube, sorry, Rightmove, the property, whether it's sold or not. And a buyer will pay a fee for buying it at completion, no fee due initially. But if you're an investor looking to buy off-market deals, you can register to receive those deals as well. So both ends of the margin there. But also there's VIP sourcing, which we do. If you've got a specific criteria that investors looking for, we can go out there. Yes, there's fees for doing that. But as we've said already, people may well say, oh no, I'll be able to go and do it myself. How much does your time cost? And are you sure you're buying in the right locations? I've sourced many properties since, 2015. And had some great successes. Investors have had great success. So,
and it's time, isn't it? Sometimes you're on Rightmove and you keep
Time.
scrolling. You're not sure what you're looking for. So
I want that one, and then
it's
already sold.
it's working out where your skill set
Yes,
lies.
exactly.
Is really
You
important.
can't be a master of everything, and that's what we're good at. That's what we do. Yes, you'll pay a fee for it. However, you'll get the property with the assurance of all the knowledge and expertise that we've got, to try and help our investors, and many success stories over the years.
Okay, and another thing that Anthony and I do is we are the hosts of Coventry and Warwickshire Property Investors Network. So we have monthly meetings that attract good few investors, different stages of their journey, and you get your chance to network with those people, potentially talk about deals in the room. It's building your knowledge, building your connections, which we've said is really important.
Very important.
So our meetings are held on the second Thursday of every month, except August because we have a little holiday, and December because we're all getting ready for Christmas.
Yeah.
So feel free to have a look online at www.propertyinvestornetwork.co.uk and get yourself booked on for our next meeting in June now.
Absolutely, and hopefully the sun will be shining still for us then. So thank you very much for joining us for this podcast. Another one on the list there for you, more free education that we're trying to give you. As I said, we want to help you as much as we possibly can do. So please do get in contact with us at our offices, 02476 100 390. We'd love to hear from you. Get yourself booked on for a call. Whatever stage you're at, we want to help you to be as successful as you possibly can do. Thank you very much for joining us.